Hey guys, what's up? It's Finch here. Today we're going to be discussing the bans in the NU metagame and in the PU metagame. Both of them had multiple bans take place recently through council votes, aka quick bans, and we're going to discuss why these bans happen, what they were on, and what impacts they may or may not have on the metagame in the future. So first off is a tier that's near and dear to my heart, the Never Use metagame, a tier that I've been on the council of for years now and also previously was the tier leader of. So there's a lot of history with this metagame, and I've always tried to keep in touch with it. Unfortunately, I feel like now I'm a bit more distant than I once was, due to the fact we've gotten shafted by so many different drops and rises that may or may not have really just shaped the metagame. And the thing is that this metagame continues to take new shapes, week after week, shift after shift, and so on and so forth. And it's very hard to keep up with, truth be told, but finally think I'm getting a hang of it here. I felt really confident playing it lately, so it's cool. So we actually voted on two Pokemon, Porygon Z and Toxicity, the main idea being that there are some other potentially controversial Pokemon like Sigilif, Beware, Mienshao, and we would be willing to hold suspects on them in the near future, so we might finally get our first NU suspect test coming in the next week or two, which is cool because we've had a lot of council votes up to this point. But in the meantime, we decided to vote on Porygon Z and Toxicity, so I personally voted ban on both. Toxicity was a very, very, very decisive vote. Everyone voted ban besides Kyo. Personally, I was super sold on this one. Be it the spec set or potentially even other sets, it really was very hard to keep in check if you don't have a Palo Sand or especially defensive Rhydon. All in all, Toxicity is amazingly strong. It was able to be fast enough to outrun most walls in the tier, being able to get the jump on things like, for example, Mantine, and when it was in the tier, Galarian Slowbro, which is very common. And while it doesn't get an Ojko on all of them, of course Mantine it might because Overdrive, but on all of them, Boom Burst is just so strong that unless you resist it or potentially even immune to it, you're taking a ridiculous amount of damage. And in addition to that, Sludge Wave hits Fairy types, and Overdrive is great for hitting Steel types and getting the one shot on some bulky waters not named Gastrodon, which doesn't really matter because Gastrodon takes way too much from Boom Burst. So all in all, Toxicity was able to soak up Toxic Spikes, be resistant to Fairy and Steel and Poison, and fighting a really common and Grass, a common attack. So despite it being more on the fragile side, it was able to get in at least a couple times every game, and it was able to just completely demolish Resistance Way. A pool of counters that was smaller than anything else in the tier besides Pangoro, which is a bit less accessible, and a pool of checks that was also similarly small, which led to it being very problematic and oftentimes picking apart teams one by one. So yeah, all in all, in my opinion, Toxicity was a very clear-cut ban. It was the most broken thing in the tier. Next up, there's Porygon Z, which was a bit more controversial. We see Rose's, Kyo, Luck of the Irish, and Schneider voting not banned, and I completely respect that. Honestly, I was mostly on the fence, and it's kind of funny because my being on the fence, only saying the big ban was probably the difference in it. It's hard because I feel like with Capernaja and Bronzong being so common, there's things that can actually check Tri-Attack spam. This is some Ghost being viable, but the thing is, if it gets the right move off, then it's going to do a ton of damage regardless, and late game Porygon Z, in my opinion, is one of the most scary Pokemon in the tier because Copper and Bronzong, they naturally take wear and tear, maybe a knockoff here and there, or so on and so forth, and it's easy to muddle away. And then say a Nasty Plot or an Agility variant of Porygon Z can just completely demolish teams. Every form of speed control is dying to Tri-Attack, so all of a sudden there's no offensive counterplay to an Agility set, and deck can just spiral out of control. It's really just defensive counterplay, and that defensive counterplay is relying on a specific crush in team building, i.e. using a Stealth Rock Steel or one of the small pool of, say, Ghost or other Steel types. And I don't like how limiting and restricting that was personally, and that's why I voted ban, and I'd imagine that's part of why Eternally, Lax, Davin, and Rabia voted ban as well. Just to read Eternaly's reasoning, is this one was a bit more controversial. Porygon Z was banned due to its solid speed tier when coupled with its insane wall-breaking potential off its massive special attack and adaptability, the ability. Only a small pool of Pokemon were able to stomach hits from Porygon Z, and virtually none of them had reliable recovery, making them incredibly easy to muscle past with either a coverage move or repeated whittling. Porygon Z also had the ability to run boosting sets with either Nasty Plot, Agility, or a combination of both absolutely dismantled balance and offensive teams alike, making its pool of counterplay too small for how easy it was to wreak havoc with. Yeah, and that's pretty much echoing the sentiment that I have. The setup variants particularly were really problematic later in games, whereas breaking throughout the game with specs, especially given how easily accessible it was with, slow U-turn and Volt Switch being pretty common and things like, Zatu, for example, or just the fact that you can come in on more passive Pokemon, which the metagame was kind of littered with due to the fact that for a large portion of the time Porygon Z was in the tier, we had to deal with things like Rain and Galarian Slowbro and Mienshao or Pangoro, keeping us kind of on our back foot. And that, in a sense, enabled Porygon Z as one of the slightly faster, sort of glass cannon-ish Pokemon that really thrived in this metagame due to not having many switch-ins. And in my opinion, that's ultimately what pushed Porygon Z over the top. So yeah, these are the bans for NU. We're probably going to suspect test Sigilyph or Beware. I'm guessing Sigilyph is a bit more common right now in the next week or two, so you're going to expect more content, more coverage on that in the future. Probably sometime after my break. I'm going to be not as active between the 3rd and the 10th, as I mentioned before. Today is going to be the 4th, I believe, so this will be like filler for Metagame Monday, because there's not going to be a Metagame Monday, but I wanted to discuss these bans on channel, so yeah. But anyway, in addition to that, PU voted to ban a number of Pokemon. They have 8 council members now that Soulgazer stepped down. Thank you so much for your time in council, Soulgazer. But yeah, so it looks like in DD, and they all gave their justification. That's super cool. So in DD got 8 out of 8 bans. It was really impossible to switch into. Psychic Drain limited the metagame a ton. Nothing really checked hyper offense with it. Yeah, so it's not surprising. Too strong with expanding force, what I'm seeing here. Few actual resist to expanding force. Scarf has too strong, too fast. It has passable speed tier. Yeah, okay. So basically, in conclusion, it was too strong for something that had such a convenient way to enter due to being pretty fast and being able to run Scarf and whatnot. So yeah, it was just too strong for something that's too convenient, and there are too limited checks and counters. Next up, 2 fighting types, Surfetched and Machamp, both got banned. As for Surfetched, 8 out of 8, yeah, unsurprisingly, Scrappy Close Combat breaks through PU with something that's strong that has at least passable for PU bulk. So yeah, it's an elite level wall breaker, unsurprisingly. Next up, from Machamp, everyone voted ban besides many of many. This is a really tough one. I think it's a combination of the Guts wall breaker set plus its capability of running every other set like AV, Dynamic Punch, and Bulk Up with Natural Bulk. It could also be a threat. I think it has some limited capability to be worn down with Rocky Helmet and Flame Orb on the Guts set. Other offense matchup. May seem critical about ban on X-Bot, but not Machamp, but this feels slightly easier to play around. So, interestingly enough, many of many, actually some very solid reasoning in justifying his lack of a ban vote. However, everyone else kind of felt like similar to Surfetched. It's just too strong. There are not many checks and counters in the tier, and while it might be running Flame Orb sets that can kind of chip it down, it still has decent enough natural bulk where it can get in, and it can really wreak havoc. Nothing's going to want to switch into close combat, knock off facade type sets. And in addition to that, the Dynamic Punch shenanigans, especially with the Self-S to bolster special bulk, make it so that it's very hard to actually continuously check and counter in these games, let alone do so reliably in a tier with just simply put limited options against it. Now, instead of voting on some fighting types, they actually elected to vote on a couple of dragon types, Duraludon and Kingdra. So Duraludon got banned with 6 out of 8 votes. It's interesting to see, okay, so it looks like 2 times the Tap and Planet, voted do not ban, but everyone else voted ban. I don't understand why people argue it's bannable. There must no switch-ins. Yep, so it seems as if the issue here is mainly the fact that there aren't many switch-ins to it, coupled with the fact that it has enough defensive capabilities. While there are a couple of steel types like Savalia Steel, Stunfisk Galar, and some more especially bulky Pokemon, such as, say, I don't know, Lantern. It's hard for really the tier to consistently check it. I mean, again, you have things like AV Machamp, but even that's not taking repeated hits, let alone from a Specs variant. And while it doesn't have coverage at steel types, it's really the only thing that's going against it. And it can opt to run Body Press with decently high physical defense to at least chip them down, potentially even get a 3 KO or 4 KO on them. So yeah, all in all, in my opinion, Duraludon was too strong for NU at a point. We didn't quite get around to banning it, but I definitely I'm not surprised it was too strong for PU. Spec set might be a prediction reliant, but there's also the Body Press sets. There's also, Stealth Rock sets and so on and so forth. And yeah, you can revenge skill it for sure. I think that offensive counterplay arguably wasn't a huge issue with things like, Vacuum Wave Toxicity in the tier. And also things like, say, Scarf and DD just completely nuking it despite being resisted because it's got such a special bulk. But all in all, it had the steel typing, which meant give it a lot of resistances, so I was able to get into the battle so much. For something that's so scary, it's really hard to justify keeping it in the tier. That's why 6 people voted to ban it. And 7 people voted to ban Kingdra. The Focus Energy set as well as the Rain sets just both seem like they're completely ridiculous for PU standards. They're really lower tier standards in general, but yeah. Many actually voted do not ban again. I'm curious to see. Okay, I'm drifting from the consensus for this one. Kindra's scary with the Rain set, Focus Energy crits, Dragon Dance even, etc. All versatility, but I haven't found any individual set to be consistently overwhelming. Okay, that's fair. So I think this is a case where there are so many good sets, but there isn't any one set that's too dominant. And normally for these Pokemon, I look like, say, okay, set 1 and set 2, what overlaps them? What can counter both sets so that I don't have to end up dedicating multiple team slots to checking one Pokemon? And the fact of the matter is that I think that the large consensus here, and with all due respect to many, who I'm sure has a lot of good reasoning and justification and experience to this tier, more than I could definitely say, but I think the consensus is that there's not enough overlap, and therefore, despite maybe one set, maybe besides the Focus Energy set, because I think that's ridiculous, not being like totally broken, there's still not enough overlap where you kind of feel like you gotta go way out of your way to make sure Kingdra's okay in team building, and that barrier in building is a big problem. Quite in the contrary though, Rose Red was actually not voted to be banned. I'm not gonna go into that quite yet, mainly because there's some other Pokemon that got banned, as you see here, that I want to get into. Probably just focus on these in this video if that's alright. X-Cloud, I mean, if you want Gigalith, then you're good. Or play around, Scarf for Aggron, or you can get hit by coverage moves, but otherwise, it's, well, yeah. I think Termy's reasoning is my favorite. Scrappy, Boom Burst, Broken. So yeah, I think that basically sums it up. Nothing really switches into it, and a few things that do. A, Gigalith is just a single Pokemon, so if you have to use one Pokemon in every single team to keep something in check, odds are it's not enough. And B, others like Aggron are reliant on prediction and whatnot, so you gotta be really careful there. Next up, we have Alolan Raichu, Sceptile voted banned, alongside Tauros. However, Hitmonlee and Virizion weren't voted banned, so a couple fighting types that actually stayed in the tier, which is cool. As for Alolan Raichu, it sweeps teams with Terrain up. Nasty Plot plus the coverage it has in conjunction with Terrain, it's very scary. I would really watch out. Grass Dot is able to invalidate all of the ground immunity, the ground types that are immune to it. Nasty Plot has coverage, amazing dual stab on top of that. And you gotta keep in mind, it has good speed too. So, yeah, I mean, it's strong, and it's fast, and it works really well on these cheesy gimmicky teams, and it's just hard to deal with it. Some people haven't really gotten a chance to abuse Electric Drain teams very well, let alone find the comments that didn't vote ban, which I completely understand with regards to 2x and Planet. But all in all, I'm not surprised. The coverage it has, coupled with the speed it has, coupled with the strength it has. Yes, it's very fragile, and I think that's the one thing going against it. But the fact of the matter is that with a little support, it has the Ochko power, the one-shot power, and the coverage to really demolish metagame if played properly and supported well. So I am not really surprised here at all. Honestly, to the point in time where we almost banned it from NU, so yeah. Sceptile got banned, which I'm a bit more surprised about. It got 6 votes, so I'm just going to go ahead and look at Megazard, the tier leader. I think we've seen how good Electric Drains could be without an DDF, that I'm willing to say. Let's push out now. Okay, so it looks like it's the Swords Dance Unburdened set. You really need like a Talonflame or a Weezing to keep it in check. Okay, that makes some sense. So yeah, it's the same as the Raichu, but with Grassy Train instead of Electric Drain. Okay, yeah, so basically the Unburdened sets with Seeds and Swords Dance is just kind of ridiculous. Some people think without Indeedee might be manageable, but other people think that a Grassy Train makes it hard to deal with regardless. And I think all in all, the combination of all these possibilities for Sceptile, it also just makes it really overwhelming, so I'm not too surprised there. And last but not least, we also have Tauros. Tauros getting banned from PU after dropping to ZU. That's kind of funny. So rest in peace, ZU. I guess PU Council just did some of your business for you. So yeah, I mean, one of the anti-ban arguments was it didn't receive much usage, which is true. Again, it did fall to ZU, and it's also a revenge global as the outline, and then some ghost types can check it potentially, but it has Throat Chop, which is able to hit things like non-Colbert variants of those, and also then there's things like Tangela and Regirock. You know, I think I get what 2x the tap is saying, but I also feel like against more offensive teams, unless your Stealth Rocker is specifically dedicated to checking Tauros, then you're kind of shit out of luck. So I feel like it's still ridiculous given the speed tier that it has, and I think that might alone be enough to limit it. But I'm actually kind of curious about this one. I think this is probably the one I'd be most on the fence about, but I also haven't gotten the chance to play the tier beyond maybe 12 to 15 games, so I'll definitely try and play it more now that I feel like it might be more balanced, and it'll be interesting to see. Close combat, Throat Chop, Body Slam though, super strong, just using coverage options. So yeah, unsurprisingly, Tauros got banned. So yeah, here's a little, all the votes from the council. You guys can look it up here. And so yeah, in conclusion, Indeedee, Surfetch, Machamp, Duraludon, Kingdra, X-Cloud, Raichu, Lola, Sceptile, and Tauros have all been banned from the PU metagame. Alright guys, well, these are the bans in both PU and NU. Be sure to check that out, and I hope all of you guys have a happy new year. Again, I'm going to be kind of on like a semi-hiatus, only maybe a video every other day, mainly just for Shifu lettering from the 3rd to the 10th, so you're probably seeing this in the 4th, so yeah, you got a video today, I guess. You'll probably get a video tomorrow for laddering, and then maybe I'll take off Wednesday or Thursday. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe I'll just say screw it and get a video up every day, but I'm trying to just be honest with expectations of activity for this week, and then after that, we're returning to normal. So yeah, thank you guys so much. I hope you all have a great day, and be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down below, and all right, peace out, guys. Later.